Are we who we think we are? Are we who we present to others? Every year, Yom Kippur reminds us we're not. In the Machzor are our proof texts. Kol nidre, all vows that we promise, swear to God, and take upon ourselves are not valid and not binding. Our vows shall not be vows. Our oaths shall not be oaths. And what that means is, even before we make any promises, we open the Day of Atonement regretting and repenting transgressions we haven't even committed yet, but know that we will. Now that's Jewish. We're not who we think we are. We're not who we present to others, and deep down, we know it. And that's why we're here. At every service on Yom Kippur, we speak the Vidui confessional for the sins we committed in the presence of God, the things that we've done that we think nobody else even knows about. Listen, God doesn't need to be reminded. We do. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha, for the harm we have caused consciously and unconsciously, through our thoughtlessness, by giving in to hostile impulses, by hating without cause, by hardening our hearts. For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgiven us, pardon us, and lead us to atonement. We turn to the Machzor a third time for one more illustration of we're not who we think we are, and God knows the truth. The Haftarah this morning is Isaiah. The words of the Eternal burst forth from the prophet's mouth, his voice raised like a shofar. Tell my people of their transgression, for though they seek me daily as though eager to learn my ways, even on your fast day, you think only of desire while oppressing. Is this the fast I desire, bowing your head like a reed, covering yourself with sackcloth and ashes? Is not this the fast I desire, to break the bonds of injustice and remove the heavy yoke, to let the oppressed go free and never to neglect your own flesh and blood? We all think we're the good guys. We may not be who we think we are, but our very presence this morning demonstrates the essence of what it means to be a Jew. To be a Jew is to step back and to honestly assess our lives. To be a Jew is to be vulnerable enough to admit a great distance lies between who we think we are and who we really are. And to be a Jew is to work to narrow that divide. The United States is going through a transformation. The transformation hurts. Take, for example, when we try to transform our bodies through exercise. When I was a personal trainer, I coached people to become comfortable with discomfort. When we lift weights in order to build muscle, we have to lift heavy enough and with enough intensity to cause tiny injuries, actual micro tears in the muscle fiber in order to build mass. Once these tears occur, along with proper rest, the body sends nutrition and it sends blood to the area to heal and to grow the musculature. We literally have to break down to build back stronger. To make change, pain is necessary. Across our country, people are awakening to racial injustices so great that to confront them is to challenge the foundational myths upon which our country was built. In school, we were made to learn the 5 propositions in the preamble of the Declaration of Independence. All men are created equal. They are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Governments are instituted among men to secure these rights, and whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it. But long-established governments should not be changed for light and transient causes. Black Lives Matter is no light and transient cause. Black Lives Matter is the civil rights movement of our time, whose mission is to eradicate white supremacy and build local power to intervene in violence inflicted on Black communities by the state and vigilantes. By combating and countering acts of violence, creating space for Black imagination and innovation, and centering Black joy, Black Lives Matter is dismantling systemic racism and improving lives. In other words, Black Lives Matter has the courage to hold our nation to the promises of our founding document: equality for all, of every gender, the right to life, liberty, and happiness, holding our government accountable to securing these rights for all, and claiming the rights of the people to alter the government when it becomes destructive of these ends. Change is hard, and it hurts, but without it, we will never narrow the divide between who we think we are and who we really are. If we don't do our part to achieve racial equity and justice, we condemn ourselves to Kol Nidre's broken vows that underscore that our talk is cheap. Unless we do the difficult work in our personal lives and in the institutions we touch, our Vidui confessionals will need to expand to include the words of Dimension's CEO and Executive Director Yavila McCoy. Al shechatanu lefanecha, for the sins we have committed through hardening our hearts to the need for change. For the sins we have committed through confessing our commitments to ending racism insincerely. For the sins of racism that we have committed through turning a blind eye to pain and suffering around us. For these and many more, I don't want to spend the rest of my life seeking forgiveness, pardon, and atonement. I want our Black Lives Matter banner on our front lawn to mean much more than it does today. Now, I recognize that not all of us support Black Lives Matter. Some of us oppose the movement. Others are more tentative. One concern in particular bears mentioning. 4 years ago, an organization called the Movement for Black Lives, a coalition of organizations working together under the larger umbrella of racial justice, presented an unfair and historically ignorant version of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It called Israel an apartheid state. It accused it of genocide. It supported the anti-Semitic boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement against the Jewish state. Their statement was reprehensible. It was rightly condemned by the Jewish world. Understand, Black Lives Matter is a highly decentralized movement. In 2020, it has no stated campaign goals around Israel. In a movement made up of individuals, there will be people who hold anti-Zionist views. But there are also high-profile supporters of Black Lives Matter and Israel. People like D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, who visited Israel in 2019 and has condemned BDS. Just like people with various opinions can identify as Zionists, people with a wide range of views can and do support Black Lives Matter. Now, I'm the grandson of Holocaust survivors, and my primal connection to the Jewish state will always be one in which, if and when our country turns against us and the world turns a blind eye, we can always go there. We live in a time when anti-Semitism from the right and from the left is in ascent. Look no further than the recent survey of American millennials and Generation Z from the Conference on Jewish Material Claims against Germany. It revealed that a shocking 11% of respondents, 11% victim blame when they say Jews caused the Holocaust. And lest you think I am conflating anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism, I speak from the understanding that those who are against the Jewish people show little evidence that they make any distinction at all. We don't have to choose between our devotion to our dreams for Israel and our dedication to the essential right of Black people to breathe and to live. We can't choose between the two. When we look back on the civil rights movement of the 1950s and the 1960s in this country, we're proud of the role our people played. But when we tell the story, have you ever noticed that we tell it as if it's an us and a them? We talk about it as if all Jews were white. That has never been the truth. Moses did not look like Charlton Heston. Moses was brown. So was every figure in the Bible, from Abraham and Sarah all the way down. Same goes for the rabbis in the Talmud, Hillel, Akiva, all of them brown. Ashkenormativity, that Jews presenting as white such as myself are normal, and everyone else who is not is somehow less legitimate, is not a Jewish belief. It is the biased expression of the racist society into which each and every one of us has been socialized in since birth. I support Black Lives Matter because it is just, and because when we make this commitment, we are also committing to ourselves. In a 2019 demographic study by the Jews of Color Field Building Initiative, research led by Ari Kelman of Stanford demonstrated that approximately 12 to 15% of American Jews identify as Jews of color. More younger people identify as non-white than older people do, meaning the future of American Jewry is even more diverse. We have a duty to dismantle systemic racism because it is the right thing to do. And we have a duty to stand up because it is in our own self-interest. The demonstrations we saw and many participated in over the summer, the grieving citizens in the streets right now over the miscarriage of justice in the extrajudicial killing of Breonna Taylor, are only one small way we dismantle systemic racism and overcome white supremacy. Systems are everywhere. These ills are not far away. They are within our Jewish institutions and our synagogue. They are within our thoughts, words, and our deeds. Where do we go from here? How do we do our work as a congregation? Our future depends on it, and yet I have no simple or single answer. We're not all in the same place. Some have been strengthening their anti-racist muscles for years. Now, you are farther along in your journey, and if you choose, I invite you to step forward. Help us reflect and affect change at Beth El. To others, this is new. Be brave. Join me on some initial honest steps. This fall, we're going to convene conversations to help us better understand the biases we have and the privileges we hold and move forward from there. I can't promise you where this work will take us, but the vision of what can be is shown to us by Isaiah toward the end of today's Haftarah. If we do what God commands, if we remove the chains of oppression, the menacing hand, the malicious word, if we offer our compassion and satisfy the suffering, then shall our light shine through the darkness and our night become as bright as noon. Ken Yehi Ratzon. Please, dear God, may it be.